Hi everyone, my name is Rakaya and you may know me as a sex educator, writer, all-around thinker. And today I'm going to be talking about something that has been on my mind. Like, it has been living in my head rent-free ever since I saw season 2. And judging by the title, you already know what I'm going to be talking about. And that is Love Alarm. Love Alarm is a hit Korean drama series that is available to watch on Netflix. The first half of it, well, season 1, we know that Netflix is just splitting 4 series into 2 now, which I don't know why they're doing that, because everyone that watches like Korean dramas, like, we're used to like 16 episodes, we're used to 20 episodes. Like, damn, some of us are used to 50 episodes. The first half was aired in 2019 and the second half literally aired this month. And what a wow. There's so much that I got from it, and I've been able to form my own interpretation of the drama. So in this video, I'm going to explain to you the meaning behind the dynamic between the 3 main leads, which is of course Sunho, Jojo, and Hye Yeong. And basically why Jojo picked Hye Yeong, because I noticed that a lot of people had an issue with who she ended up with. In the second half, I'm going to be explaining what I believe is the message behind Love Alarm, and also the deeper meaning behind the concept of Love Alarm as an app in itself. In the first half, I will focus on love in the context of compatibility. In the second half, I will focus on love in terms of being an emotion or a feeling. So let's get this explanation slash interpretation slash my own opinion started. In my own opinion, when it came to the 3 leads and their love triangle, I believe that Sunho represented chemistry, but Hye Yeong represented compatibility. At the start, it seemed like Sunho was the perfect match. I mean, he was confident, he was very forthcoming, and he knew what he wanted. As soon as he saw Jojo, he literally went after her. But when I think about it, Sunho and Jojo's relationship started off very messy. Like, think about it. Sunho pursued the girl that he knew that his best friend liked. Now, he had no obligations to Hye Yeong because Hye Yeong didn't do anything. He was literally watching her from a distance. But it was still a bit messy. And on Jojo's side, the relationship actually started with her cheating on her boyfriend at the time. Regardless, their chemistry was clearly on fire, and during their high school days, they could not resist each other. But as the story progressed, I started to see some cracks in terms of Sunho and Jojo's compatibility. As the storyline progressed, we started to see that Jojo has a lot of inner demons. You know, she has a lot of things within herself that she's trying to deal with. She's the kind of person who needs space because she was also an introvert. She constantly had a lot on her mind. I mean, she was trying to pay off a debt that her dead mother left her. Her auntie literally treated her like shit, as well as her cousin. And she was juggling school and 2 part-time jobs. The girl had a lot on her mind. And even as she went into adulthood, she still had a lot to deal with. From what I saw, she needed somebody who would be patient with her, somebody who understood that she needed time to really clarify her feelings. She needed somebody who would give her room for growth, and Hye Yeong represented this. Oh my god. So I'm like, you know, getting into the flow of things, and then I realize, shit, I'm saying Hye Yeong. His name is actually Hye Yeong. So my apologies, and also my apologies if I'm not pronouncing their names correctly. I've tried to listen to the drama like a few times just to make sure I'm getting the pronunciation, but I don't know if it's off or not. But please, I really do apologize. So let's get back to the story. As I said, Hye Yeong represents this. Hye Yeong in the beginning came across as passive. But you see, that's how quiet people tend to come across, as vacant. But that really wasn't the case. And this is something that I see a lot in Korean dramas, is that the second lead will always be the quiet guy, whereas the the first lead will be more forthcoming, and usually it's kind of portrayed in like a bad way, like this is why he didn't get the girl, because you know he's too nice, he's too passive. But I really liked how the quiet guy in this drama was represented, because in this drama I believe that the quiet guy was exactly what Jojo needed. And the reason why I say this is because he was patient, he was observant, he listened and then applied what he had observed. Rather than forcing himself on Jojo, he opted to wait. And waiting doesn't make you a dickhead. I'm sorry, it really doesn't. He was persistent, but his method was like a slow burner. He was persistent, but he was patient. He was persistent, but gentle. He was persistent, but he wasn't forceful. As we got to know Jojo more and we got to see more of her personality, it became clearer to me anyways that that union made sense. Because as I said before, she had a lot of inner demons. That's the kind of woman that you don't suffocate. That's the kind of woman that you give space. Unfortunately, Sunho didn't realize this, and you could see it throughout the drama. From the beginning, he forced himself onto her. Yeah, he may have came across as somebody who just really liked her and who was just really passionate, but it always felt like he was rushing her. Like, he didn't even give her enough space to just think, let alone breathe. The cafeteria moment is a very great example of this. I feel like it was very embarrassing for Jojo. Sunho may have been brave and shameless, but Jojo didn't like eyes on her, and Hye Yeong actually mentioned this during their fight. The cafeteria incident may have seemed like a brave public proclamation of love, but for somebody with a very secretive and introvert personality, it was embarrassing. It was humiliating. That shit wasn't cute. I know for some people, they need a partner that is a bit more extroverted, that is a bit more forward and, you know, just a bit pushy, not to the point where, you know, it goes into coercion, but just somebody who is just a bit more, they take a step forward, you know, they initiate things. I understand that, but that kind of like extroverted character, like I said before, is not what Jojo needed. So when you pursue a character like Jojo in the way that Sunho did, it pushes that person further away, and it actually makes things worse for you. And I can't lie, it comes across as a bit self-centered and borderline narcissistic if you cannot see how your behavior is affecting someone. And that's one thing that I don't really like about romantic dramas. Male leads tend to be very selfish. They overstep boundaries. They do things without the female lead's consent. They keep showing up in places uninvited, even after repeatedly being told no. And a great example of this is Secret Garden. I watched Secret Garden like way back when. I think it was like in 2010. I think that's when it came out. So that was like over 10 years ago. And at the time, you know, as a teenager, it was like, oh my God, you know, he keeps chasing her. He must really want her. He's so dreamy and all this kind of other things. But then I watched it again. I think I watched it again last year. I think it was last year. I was at the episode where I think he kissed her, like forcefully kissed her. And that's just when I tapped out. I just had to tap out there. And because I'm a sex educator, I'm very like hypersensitive to these kind of things. So I can instantly spot when something, you know, when toxic behavior in terms of like romantic relationships is being displayed. Also, the same thing with The Hairs. Like, I remember when The Hairs came out and there was so much hype around it because it was like an all-star cast. Kim Tan, oh my God, like every single week I would tune in and I'd be so pissed off, but I found myself still tuning in the next week because it was, I'm not gonna lie, it was very addictive. But like what I didn't like about Kim Tan's character is that he kept forcing himself onto the female lead. Like there was one scene where he dragged her to like the outside shed or something, and he was like, when I tell you to stay somewhere, you stay. When I tell you to go, blah, 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 and then he just kissed her. And I was like, I don't know, do Korean women like this? Because I noticed that this kind of male lead seems to be common. Is this, do Korean women find these kind of guys attractive? Because for me, it's just toxic to me, you know? It's just it comes across as very hegemonic in terms of masculinity and stuff like that. Just this this whole thing about men needing to like exert some kind of like control, and you know, the way that they express their love and feelings, it's like it's in a way where they kind of like have to dominate you. And I love a dominant man, but there are more healthier ways to be dominant than Kim Tan's character or the other guy in Secret Garden. I forgot his name. But yeah, there are more healthier ways to be a dominant man, and that for me was not it. And my issue with that is that young people will watch these dramas and then they will internalize what they're seeing and then start to normalize that kind of behavior. And they will start to believe that this is how a man is supposed to chase me. And that's simply not the case. The way that Hye Yeong pursued Jojo is the correct way to do it, in my opinion. I loved it when he said that he was going to court her the traditional way. Obviously, because the love alarm has kind of changed the way how people date and the way how people express their feelings for others. It just felt refreshing that he was going to go down a more traditional route. And just the way that Hye Yeong carried himself and how he was so gentle and so understanding, it came across as very manly and attractive to me. And throughout the drama, I just kept thinking to myself, like, oh my god, like, this guy is so dreamy. Like, he's such a gentleman. Like, this is the kind of guy that would make my heart flutter. And I know that's so cliche to say, but that's the exact kind of vibe that I got from him. Like, that's how I would want a man to pursue me. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like the reason why most people were rooting for Sono is because you guys are just used to trash male leads. Like, you're used to toxic male leads. I hate to say it, but that's just my opinion. And maybe I might take it a step further and say that how maybe certain people are used to just trash men in real life, because I don't understand why anyone would find a guy that just walks into your lecture. You're trying to get your study on, and then he just walks in and just embarrasses you, and then people record that video, like, and it goes around and it just kind of like tarnishes like your reputation. I don't know why anyone would find that appealing. I also feel like the reason why most people rooted for Sono is because of his looks. I feel like Sono and Hye Yeong represent two different types of masculinities that are very popular in Korea. I recently read a paper on Korean masculinity because I find femininity and masculinity very interesting, and also just the fact that soft masculinity seems to be a thing there. You know, there are multiple masculinities, just like how there are multiple femininities in terms of, in a societal kind of way, not in like energies and spiritual kind of way. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but what the writer basically said is that in Korea there are two main masculinities in society, and it's like the traditional masculinity and also like the more soft, you know, flower boy masculinity. And I feel like Sano represents the flower boy type and Hye Yeong represents the more traditional masculine type of man. The flower boy is in, let's be real, most of the audience for Love Alarm are young, and a lot of young people that watch Korean dramas also listen to K-pop. So the flower boys are in, the pretty boys are in. So I feel like that's why most people were more drawn to Sono than they were to Hye Yeong. And you know, I'm not bashing people's type or anything like that. I just want to make young people, specifically young girls, be aware that a lot of the male leads that are portrayed in these dramas, I mean, it's changed a lot. It's changed a lot from when I was a teenager. I've been watching Korean dramas since like the late 2000s, okay? Like, yeah, it's been a while. And and things have changed a lot in terms of like the male leads. The trope of like the guy that is like really, really forceful, really, really persistent seems to still be very prevalent. I just want you guys to be aware that that's not necessarily a good thing, or that's not something that you should want or internalize in terms of how you feel like guys should treat you, because like I said, it's very toxic. But as for me, out of the two characters, I prefer the more quiet, observant type, you know, the one that waits to make his move. And that's exactly who Hye Yeong was. And yeah, it doesn't always work in your favor like how it did for him. Sometimes you wait and then somebody seizes the opportunity before you, which is exactly what happened at the start. But as you can see, eventually Jojo's feelings started to change, which leads me on to the second half of this video, where I talk about the message behind Love Alarm. You can't quantify human emotions, and you especially can't quantify love, because love isn't just an emotion. It's not just a feeling. It's so much more complex than that. There's only so much that the algorithm can actually do. Love, like I said, it's complex. Human emotions are complex, which is the current struggle that a lot of scientists have with AI. Like, the reason why I believe that there's a struggle with creating conscious AI is because how do you quantify certain things like emotions? Like, how do you do that? How do you quantify something like love? How will a robot know that it's feeling love? How will it even know that it's feeling? How do you put all of that into data, into mathematics? Like, how the hell do you do that? Love isn't static. How we experience love is very different. It is very subjective. But love alarm conditions society to having this very narrow mindset about love. The only way that you could know whether somebody loved you or not is if your love alarm rang. But love manifests itself in so many different ways. How I define love today can change tomorrow. How I define my love for one person can be different to how I define it for another person. For example, exes. I'm sure that we can all confidently say that we loved all of our exes differently. How you love one person in a relationship is very different to how you love another person in a separate relationship. This doesn't make my definition of love right or wrong. It just makes it unique to me and my own experiences. This was the issue with Love Alarm 2, which Dr. mentioned. Yes, the love alarm can predict who will love you, but there will always be variables. The AI has its limits, which is why I said before, you cannot quantify human emotions. And then some people will say, yeah, well, if the shield wasn't there, Jojo would still be with Sono. 100%, absolutely, I agree with you. In fact, I believe that if Love Alarm 2 was around when they were still in high school, it would have predicted that Jojo would fall in love with Sono. But that's literally my whole point. Because there will always be variables, love is unpredictable and will always be subject to change. And because love is unpredictable and will always be subject to change, there will always be variables. In this case, the variable was the shield, but one could argue that there were actually more. The passing of time, growing up and maturing, your desires have changed, what you want in a partner has changed, your tastes have changed, you've just evolved as a person. All of these things are variables. Like, for example, let's say that when you were a teenager, your requirement was just a guy that dressed good. But then as you got older and you matured, you started to look for things such as, is he loyal? Is he protective? Or is he patient and kind? Is he a great listener? It's cliche, but you get my point. People change, people grow up, they experience growth in their lives, and I feel like that's why Jojo was able to stop loving Sun-Oh and was able to start loving Hye Yeong. The algorithm couldn't predict that this is what would happen. There's only so much that a machine can do. That's why Dr. expressed his concern about society relying on a machine that isn't 100% reliable. If there will always be variables, then the AI will not always be correct. And that was the true danger of Love Alarm. Love Alarm changed how humans socially interact with each other. It literally unraveled the fabrics of society and twisted them into something else. Rather than use your own intuition to ask yourself about your own feelings that only you feel, people turn to an app to tell them how they feel. How crazy is that? Which is why Jojo was struggling to figure out whether she had true feelings for Hye Yeong or not. Because she was conditioned to believe that the app should tell her how she feels rather than her figure out the answer on her own. And as I mentioned, the app was purely focused on feelings. Yes, Jojo probably still had some lingering feelings for Sono, but love isn't just a feeling. Love is action. And her feelings combined with her actions was proof that she loved Hye Yeong. Which is why, for example, in the scene where she came home and then she saw the pictures that she took with Hye Yeong and she started crying. And then her cousin was like, it's so obvious like that you love him. And then she was like, wait, you're right. Yeah, this is proof that I love him, because At that moment, she was feeling emotional. And also when she told Sunho that after the video went viral, she immediately thought about Hye Yeong and ran straight to him because she cared about how he felt. Not to mention that she went out of her way to ring Hye Yeong's love alarm. That was action. Jojo wasn't forcing herself to find reasons to choose Hye Yeong. She was fighting the algorithm by learning how to choose for herself. I've been seeing a lot of hate for season 2 because a lot of people felt as if Hye Yeong and Jojo's relationship was forced, which I greatly disagree with. This drama wants you to read between the lines to see how damaging technology can be. It highlighted how humans became codependent on a machine to do things for them that they could practically do for themselves. And this is something that we have been warned about in the past. I remember buying a book years ago called Artificial Intelligence and the End of the Human Era, Our Final Invention. This book by James Barat mentioned the fact that we were slowly handing over our power to machines, and we were doing that by becoming so reliant on them. And he was right, because it's currently happening right now. For example, if you lose your phone, it feels like you've lost your life. Love Alarm is a great example of how becoming less self-reliant and becoming more codependent on machines can have a negative impact on society. As somebody who is currently studying sociology, I found this aspect of the storyline so interesting. It reminded me so much of Black Mirror. It was like social commentary on technology, but told through a love story. It also confirmed for me why I don't believe in soulmates. I believe in compatibility, not some once-in-a-lifetime destiny kind of thing. That's too hocus pocus and mystical for me. I believe that there's a good amount of people in the world that I'm actually compatible with. In fact, not even the world, but in the whole universe. Like, if I flew to like another galaxy and then I landed on another planet and there was like a different kind of species there, I mean, who's to say that a couple of people on that planet I'm compatible with? It's not, well, it is very far-fetched because we haven't come across aliens. But, you know, if we did come across aliens and we were able to do intergalactic travel, I'm pretty sure that there would be plenty of people in the universe, thousands and thousands, who we would all be compatible with. Soulmate is just, I don't vibe with it. I believe that my chances of meeting somebody who I'm compatible with and even falling in love with is mainly based on luck. The other side of it is based on how hard I'm willing to work towards finding someone. And I believe that this is for everyone. Everyone has a good amount of people that they would most likely be compatible with, which is why, as I said before, love is not static. Love can change. Love is something that you can act on. Love is action. It is not just a feeling. It's crazy how season 1, I was like, what the hell is this? This storyline is so annoying. Yet I couldn't stop watching. In fact, I watched the whole of season 1 like over 2 days, and this was the week that season 2 dropped. And season 2 was just wow, it was just amazing. The storyline got a bit more complicated and the drama itself started to feel a bit abstract, which I loved. I felt like I was beginning to understand Jojo more as the imperfect, multi-layered heroine that she was. She was a normal human being that had flaws, had insecurities, and inner demons that she was fighting every day. Even the cinematography got better in season 2. Like, there's one shot that I can't get out of my head. And that was of Hye Yeong at the train station after he had that conversation with Dokgu. And there was like a train that passed by his head, and I just thought, this shot is just so beautiful. But I do also have a few dislikes. For starters, there was no inkling that she was an artist. So when the drama started to slowly reveal to us that she was the illustrator for the Ringing World, I was like, huh? Like, there was never any scene of her drawing or doing anything of the sort. So I just couldn't understand how she was like this really popular illustrator on Instagram. I know that it was anonymous, but it was just still weird because there was just nothing that indicated that this was a hobby of hers. Dokgu, like, didn't he fall off of a building? How the hell did this guy rise from the dead? I don't understand. I know that in the drama he's supposed to be in a coma, but even that was just a bit, it was just a bit too far-fetched. And then he came back looking even more handsome than before. I was like, what the hell? I was just so, it's not that I was like confused. Actually, I was confused, and I was just like, what the hell is going on? And why did Jojo actually download the shield to block Sono? It just wasn't clear for me. Like, during the middle, I thought, oh, maybe his mom said something to her, and something like, you know, stay away from my son, but you know how the rich mothers always do it in the dramas. So maybe that was like her incentive to put on the shield and to just break up with him. And I know they kind of made it seem as if it was because she was just dealing with like her own issues and stuff, which is why she turned away from him and broke up with him. But I just still feel like it wasn't clear enough. Like, fair enough, I said that how I love how season 2 the drama became more abstract, but I felt like that was just a bit too abstract. There could have been a bit more explanation as to why she downloaded the shield. Anyways, that's all for now, guys. I hope you enjoyed my explanation slash thoughts and opinions on this drama, and I hope it's given you a different perspective of Love Alarm. And I even saw some people complain about the fact that everything was dictated by the app, and I'm literally like, well, that was literally like the point of the drama. It was to show you the negative effects of when society just completely allows this app to just dictate and dominate over their lives. It's a very interesting storyline, and I very much enjoyed it. I think it's up there with some of my favorite dramas. Anyways, follow me on Instagram at @IamRakaya. Subscribe to me over here. Like this video, comment, share, and be on the lookout because I will be making more videos like this where I go in depth into certain topics, whether it's through TV show like this, whether it's through music, it could be through anything. I really want to share my different thoughts and opinions on things and my own perspectives and my own views and stuff. Before, I used to be very afraid, and also because YouTube is pretty daunting, but I'm ready to take that next step. I'm ready to dive in. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. All right, so take care, guys. Bye. Mwah.